some would be like, okay, well, I'm in perimenopause, I'm menopausal. So now all of a sudden I'm going to take care of myself because it's a phase. Like it's a phase in their life that also mirrors if they had children, the children are off, they might even be considering career change, all of these things that they're doing for themselves, including eating better, exercising, and then they have this menstrual cycle, right? Because you were repleting where there might have been nutritional deficiencies, that was why there was an erratic cycle in the first place.
Hey everyone, welcome to Unapologetically 50 Plus. My name is Angela. So today we are going to talk about managing menopause. We are going to discuss gaining insight into maintaining energy, managing weight, and combining traditional and holistic healthcare practices, and much more. But before we get started, I have one huge favor to ask. If you find any value or enjoy the content, please remember to like and subscribe. Also, in the description below, there's a link to a free guide called Coping Strategies for Anxiety and Irritability During Menopause. So please make sure you grab that free guide. All right, now let's get this conversation started. So thank you, ladies, for joining me. And we are going to get right into the questions and talk about our menopausal journey. And we have Denicia, who is a holistic health practitioner. So she's going to give us also some clinical information. And please remember that this is for learning purposes. We are not medical doctors. So please remember that. All right. Thank you, ladies, for joining us. First, let's go around and just quickly introduce yourselves, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Miss Leslie.
I am Leslie White, originally from the island of Bermuda, now living in Charlotte, North Carolina after some time in the New England area. 57, not sure when menopause hit me or if it has yet, and we'll go into all of that. But just happy to be here and learn from other women and share my stories as well.
All right, Denicia.
Hello, everyone. I'm Denicia Hilton Harvard, and I am a holistic well-being consultant and doctor of Eastern medicine. So my take on how it is that I use the medicine is that I love looking at how it is that there's these little influences and nuances that are happening in our lives all the way from birth and how they play a role into what we see physically. So really taking a look at the spiritual, the mental, and the emotional, and really seeing what they can entail, and what messages, I call them signals, what messages that they might have for you, guiding you and how it is that you could experience these rich relationships with yourself and with others.
Amazing. And Miss Avery.
Hi, my name is Katrece Avery. I'm like the other co-host sometimes with this lovely one above. I'm an artist, an IT consultant here in California for now. And I will be 57 this year. I say my age proudly because we don't all make it to that. So I'm honored to be of this glorious age. But however, being postmenopausal for a few years now, it's been an interesting journey.
Right.
Oh, it's been an interesting journey. So I'll turn it back over to you, Miss Angela.
All right. So, my first question for you, Denicia, can you explain? And I'm sure a lot of people already know this, but just for my knowledge, explain perimenopausal, menopausal, and postmenopausal. What are some of the slight, explain it. Go ahead and explain it.
Yeah, sure. So, okay, when I discuss these things, just y'all know, I want to reiterate, I'm coming from a perspective and through a lens of Eastern medicine where we do see the phases of life differently. So I do actually incorporate, because there's functional medicine that I'll use as well. So there's the Western medicine perspectives that I am very well aware of, and then I incorporate and blend them and connect the dots that way. So you'll kind of hear me speak all a lot of angles, and then I'll try to connect them, right? So when it comes to perimenopause, it's so funny to me because I'm like, anything before menopause is perimenopause. But really, what most start to see is that the menstrual cycle will become very erratic. So there would be like it could be really long bleeding and then it could be short bleeding, but then the actual cycle itself could be really short and then it can go really long. And between cycles, um, clarification here as well. When I say cycle, I'm not just talking about the active bleeding. It's from one bleed to the next bleed. That's what I'm talking about. So, it could be, like I said, a shorter, much shorter time frame of a cycle where it could be like 15 days, 20 days. And then all of a sudden it'll be like 45 days, 60 days. Um, Perimenopause has been one of those phases that's been somewhat tricky for many to quote unquote be diagnosed in, um, because of PCOS and fibroids. So the incidence and the prevalence of those being present for someone, they can kind of mimic if you just go by the presentation of the menstrual cycle. Um, and so then that's where some would say, well, we'll do blood tests. And then they'll go and do these blood tests. But here's the tricky thing with the blood test. The blood test can only show you a snapshot at that time. So this is where there are other labs that could be used, such as Dutch labs, ones that, and Dutch uses dried urine. So it'll actually be analyzing the metabolites of the hormones through over so many days. So it's a cycle mapping. So that way you become more aware of what's happening with the hormonal fluctuations. And then there's other things that could be off, like nutritional deficiencies with vitamins and minerals, and they play a role with the hormones. So this is why I say it's tricky, because it really could be something that's nutritional. It really could be something that's mental, emotional. And that is why the cycle is presenting in the way that it's presenting, but you may not necessarily be in perimenopause. And so so that's, I say that because what I'm seeing and what I'm observing are so many right now that are, it's almost like, it's almost like an anger about it. Like, why didn't they just tell me that it was perimenopause, or why didn't we learn about blah blah blah? And I'll say I was in the menstrual space heavily when I first started my practice, and same thing happened. Like I'm telling you, the patterns are so funny to me because I see both of them happening where they're, why didn't we know about this with menstrual cycles? And so now I'm seeing it with perimenopause, and it's like they're all the same to me. That's just the way my mind is seeing it. It's all the same. And if you get hung up on the superficial stuff, you could potentially be holding yourself back because you're focusing on something else. Like you're focusing on why didn't they do blah, blah, blah. Versus this is what it is. And then now through these different lenses, let's see what happens. Let's see what information I can get. And including knowing the differences between your labs, knowing the differences, because I have some saying they're saying I'm perimenopausal because of my AMH. The AMH can actually change. And so some people would be like, I now can't have a baby because of my AMH. And actually they could later.
What's AMH?
Oh, so AMH is the anti-Müllerian hormone. It's it's one of the things that you can test for. And sometimes that's what they'll use as a marker in blood labs to say you're perimenopausal. Okay. So that's one of them that they will look at, that they'll consider. But it has been known that one can give false impressions. I'm gonna put it like that. It can give false impressions. However, they don't have anything else. So that's what they'll use right now. They continue to use it. I did want to point out also for perimenopause to know if you're potentially in that area. There is one that I do like. It's a sensor called by Mira. And that one's one that they will monitor as well over time of the cycle. And they're measuring hormones with that one as well. So you do that at home, your first urine, and you dip the sticks and then stick it in the little reader, and it'll just give you that information and it logs it for you. once you get into menopause, the going definition right now is no menstrual cycle for a year. And then they'll say, well, you're menopausal. And the interesting thing is there are some that have reported, I hadn't menstruated in a year, and then all of a sudden they did.
Oh,
And so then they're
I'd
like,
be
well, now
so
I'm not,
mad.
now I'm not,
He's
but
so mad.
That's so wrong.
I
That's just
know,
Ah!
wrong.
I
That's
know.
just wrong.
Well, and so here's the thing with that is like, remember what I said before, like it could be other types of disharmonies with nutrition that could be off, right? And then the menstrual cycle, it's like the body, you got to think of the body in the sense of where it's wanting to procreate, it's wanting to offer, right? Like something else, pass on things generationally. So when there's a lot of stress or something going on too, the least of its worries is let's reproduce. So it's almost like, well, if we want to survive, if we want this vessel to survive right now, I just got to think on my own. So let me just pull the resources from the things that I don't really need to like use right now, and so it can come out in the menstrual cycle. And so when some would be like, okay, well, I'm in perimenopause, I'm menopausal, so now all of a sudden I'm going to take care of myself because it's a phase, like it's a phase in their life that also mirrors if they had children, the children are off, you know, they might even be considering career change, all of these things that they're doing for themselves, including eating better, exercising, and then they have this menstrual cycle, right? Because you were repleting where there might have been nutritional deficiencies, that was why there was an erratic cycle in the first place. and, and so then now there's that. Now, the other case is if it had been so long and then all of a sudden there is a bleed and you tend to notice that this is happening. And it's like, that's peculiar. And the other circumstance that I talked about is not for you, then that's when you actually do want to go in and get scans or ultrasounds done, blood tests and stuff, because sometimes that random bleeding can be synonymous to cancer or other like precancerous tumors, sometimes polyps, things like that. So that could be a case as well. So it's like you kind of want to just understand that all of it could be playing a role at that time. Post menopause, once again, getting hung up on semantics and definitions, but like most of the time, it's when some report, well, the hot flashes have eased up. So I don't have like, or the vaginal dryness is still there, but I'm dealing with it. It's fine, right? It's to me, it's almost like interpreted as a I'm okay with whatever is happening with the symptoms, and so, like that's how I see it, and how some just kind of look at it and they're like, oh, everything's good, but really they are still being monitored, especially for osteoporosis and teeth issues as well, because that's bone. So there's still other things they're being monitored for due to estrogen levels decreasing. And so then that's when it'll be post menopause. But there is something, I'll tell you this too. A teacher, I remember this in school because I thought it was really cool, and a part of me, it kind of helped me feel better about my body size. But so she was like, those for some who are going into transitioning into menopause, having fat actually has helped, because so here's the gray area, right? Like fat can store things, right? So it can store toxins that are released, all right, but it also helps to store hormones like estrogen. so, so when the ovaries they start to decrease in the amount that they're producing, what's in the fat can actually be used. And so those that might have like, they might be a little bit more juicier, it'll help mitigate with some of the symptoms that they might actually experience. But here, the other side to that, if there's a lot of toxicity that's there in the fats also, so as that estrogen is being released, there could be other things being released. And then that's what they're responding to, not necessarily perimenopause, but they're responding to the toxins that have now released out of the fat and don't really have their open passageways to come out of the body very well.
Okay.
That was a whole bunch of stuff for all the things.
I have,
And he's
I
just
have so
like,
many questions. I'm definitely going to have you on again because I have so many questions in my head. But did, ladies, do you guys, either one of you have any questions? Want to elaborate on any of that? Any experiences that
You
Leslie?
talked about the length of time without a period. And one of my friends, she was like early 60s maybe, and she was 11 and a half months. And she was like, yes. And then she said, that bitch showed up again today. And she was like, no, I got to start all over. For me, though, I had a hysterectomy at 40,
okay.
as did my mom. My mom has not had a hot flash yet. She's 87.
Oh, yes.
When I had my hysterectomy, my doctor was like, oh, so you have the healthy ovaries of a 30-year-old. So my ovaries are 47, even though I'm 57. That's what I tell myself. But I still haven't had hot flashes.
Mm.
What I have had are heart palpitations.
Oh, okay.
And if there's anything that scares the living daylights out of you and makes you feel like you're going to die is being in your brand new apartment, new bed, new mattress, new sheets, new everything. I'm in my bed, ready to go to sleep. And all of a sudden, my heart, and I'm like, what the hell? Put on my Apple Watch, my heart was 135.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
Which is like what it would be if you were like running a marathon.
Yeah.
I got dressed. I called my girlfriend. I was like, listen, I don't need you to come. I just need somebody to know we're each other's emergency contact because we're both single. We both live alone, right?
mm-hmm.
So I was like, I just need you to know I'm going to be at the ER. I go, I have full blood work up, and they're like, well, it could be your thyroid because sometimes that causes palpitations. Thyroid levels were fine. They did everything, EKG, nothing. PCP, go on a heart monitor for 30 days. Did that. Every time it happened, push a button. Are you resting? Are you exercising? Nothing. Cardiologist. I'm like, I don't even have a cardiologist. I've never been to a cardiologist. Transthoracic echocardiogram, which is like an ultrasound of your heart. And he was like, ma'am, your heart is in great shape.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing we could come up with is menopause. And then about maybe 5 months into this, when I started to think I was crazy, or maybe I was just having anxiety related heart palpitations, which is not my personality. And I've never been like an anxious kind of person. I'm more like, yeah, whatever.
Mm.
So I'm watching a video on Instagram. It was Oprah and Michelle Obama, and they were talking about heart palpitations as a symptom of menopause that nobody ever talks about. And when I tell you the light bulb went on in my head, I took a deep breath, like woosah. I'm not crazy.
Oh,
Okay.
you're not.
But
So,
when I
on
tell friends that, they're like, never heard of it before.
In Eastern medicine, we actually ask about that
Really?
because so when we ask if there's palpitations, we actually ask if it's at rest or with activity
Mm-hmm.
because it tells us which organ systems are at play.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they are at rest, we start to look at the liver's energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the same time with the heart's energy in the sense of, could the heart potentially for this person have some vulnerability? So when I speak about it through the lens of Eastern medicine, we're talking more energetics. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, there are, and then there will be other things that I'm asking about too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're right. Like the sweats, like can happen for some, some it doesn't. Sometimes it's for some, it's like hot flashes where they're like during the day, but then there's others, they don't have anything during the day, but they'll sweat at night. Right. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and even then when they're sweating, it's different types of sweat. So then we'll ask, like, is it sweat? Is it oily? Is it watery? Did it stop when you woke up or did it continue? And we start looking at urinary patterns. And then like in this case, if there were the palpitations as well, that is where I'm looking like, was it with rest or was it with activity? And then
Mhm.
like, what was going on? What time? And if it's at night, it's versus during the day. And then what what could you have eaten? Like, so then those are things that we look at to see, all right, what is really going on and what is real, how are they really playing with each other, right?
Mhm.
And like I said, it tells us a difference between is this a liver heart issue or a lung heart issue? And then we put that against the other things that you might be reporting.
Mhm.
And so here's a beautiful thing to me. It doesn't get talked about as much, but there's a special vessel that's called the Bao vessel, and it connects the heart to the uterus. Now, even though we speak about these organs, like, and some people would say, well, mine was taken out, and that goes for like the spleen, it goes for the gallbladder too. We still see things that pop up with these related organ systems. So we still look at the energetics as if they are still there. But what will happen is there's this vessel that connects those two, connects the heart to the uterus. And so if you can think about, man, well, yeah, when there were things that I either might have been stressed about or I got upset about, and then all of a sudden your cycle, your menstrual cycle, like changed, it might have shifted,
Mhm.
right? So it could have been shorter, it could have been longer. And then it's like the communication of the effect on the heart to the uterus. And then it was affecting the menstrual cycle and its expression. You go into menopause, that energy of the uterus is still there. The Baomai vessel is still there. The heart and its energy is still there, right? So, like a lot of the mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects of the heart is like this creativity, this inspiration, this passion, right? It's now getting redirected for many from channeling to human creation to now it's like life recreation of whatever it is, if it's hobbies, if it's like I was saying, transitioning to a new job or starting a business or something like that, which is why you see at this age all of a sudden they got brand new things that they're all interested in.
Mhm.
And all of this is like this redirected energy.
Yeah.
So then when there's these palpitations that are present, and then if it's at rest, I start wondering and asking about, is there some shunted form of creativity even for you that you're not moving on?
Mm.
And so the energy from the liver is about knowing when to express and knowing when to retreat. But when it's forced to stagnate, it has to express its energy and it'll sometimes shunt it to the most vulnerable organ, which for some could be the heart. And especially if it's in menopause, because it's that, even though it's a transition period, it's like a whole different other person, a whole different other being. And
Mhm.
some are in that stage of the confusion of who am I? What am I doing with myself? Yet the energy inside is saying, you got to move this. You got to move it, girlfriend. Like, I need you to do something. And it's showing, it can show itself in the form of these palpitations.
Wow.
I still, or I would, that's the way that I would address it. Like,
Mhm.
from the MES side, the mental, emotional, spiritual side. And like I said, it's still putting up against any other signals and things that could be potentially going on because you could use herbs. And there are
Mhm.
herbs specifically for that type of presentation.
Mhm.
And if there wasn't much that herbally that you would need to do, sometimes it's something as simple and light as flower essences that you could use. And but you see, it's not just looking for and being like, oh, it's palpitations at rest that I'm looking
Mhm.
for. No, it's the, if you know, I saw your face kind of like go like this. If you know that there was something with creativity or just feeling stunted or not really knowing direction or something like that, it's that type of language that the flowers speak. And
Mm.
so then that's how their essences, that's how you would be able to identify which essences could be supportive.
That's wild.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Leslie, because I had a couple of heart palpitations. I was at rest, and I see periodically. I'll see a Eastern medicine doctor,
Mhm.
and they do the whole. It's very interesting.
Pulse.
She was doing the whole listening to my pulse, and she connected that and asked me a bunch of different questions. And so she did give me herbs, and she said one of the things to help strengthen the heart, and I've been trying to do it. She said goji berries, and then she was giving me herbs, and to drink as a tea. But that what you also said, Denise, is about letting that energy, trying that energy, creativity, um, letting that out and figuring that out is also very interesting, because I have now, as you see my podcast, and that released that energy for me, and I haven't had any more palpitations, because I was the same. I was like, Leslie, I'm like, oh my, am I having a heart attack? I know I'm at that age, and
Yeah,
you know
it's
all those things.
scary.
It's scary. It is
Yeah.
What's
scary.
What's funny is I don't have the racing heartbeat anymore. And you know how your heart obviously beats 24/7, 365 because you're alive, right? Sometimes I can put my hands here or on my stomach, and I can feel it. Like it's not fast, but it's hard. And I'm
Mm.
like, what the heck? Like it's the weirdest thing. Like sometimes I literally take a Benadryl so I can go to sleep because
Wow.
hearing it and feeling it keeps me awake.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's that awareness of it.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, that whole presentation too is, like I said, you would just put that against some other thing that
Mhm.
somebody that you would ask about to see the direction of which way to go. When it comes to, yeah, with the and herbs and other things that could potentially help with, yeah, the goji berries are awesome. If you could do like a kanji, I'm thinking with the goji berries, with dates,
Oh.
and then just like really cooking them and simmering them. Some don't even
Mm.
do it as a kanji, but they'll do it as a tea.
Hmm.
Um, and then just like sip on them. And
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, those can be so good. Oh my gosh, it could be so delicious when
Yeah.
you
All
just
right,
like
now I have to find a health food store in Charlotte.
you
Yeah.
gotta have it there. I know you do
Oh,
because
I'm sure they
Oh,
I
I'm
do.
know
sure
In
there
Charlotte
is.
Charlotte,
was like,
yeah. In Charlotte, yeah.
yeah, they were building out a lot of stuff from my understanding. Somebody
Mhm.
I know who moved up there.
So, what strategies do you find most effective, Denicia, or anybody can answer this one, for supporting your mental health? Not your mental health, because you're not there yet, Denicia. You're still too young. And for postmenopausal patients, or even for Catrice or Leslie, for yourself, what strategies are you finding to help support your mental health through this transition, ladies? Anyone?
I can, before Miss Denisea goes, for me and Angela, you know this, I really started listening to solfeggio tones.
Mm.
Just really, and it's interesting because different tones did matter. And they're based on colors, and you go which then also connects to the different chakras. And so I've always been like the flower child, and then I just really, they're like, Mom, not again. I'm like, okay, well, you know, someone pretended to be me at work, and they came up with like an Badu person, and I was like, okay. But it did help me listening to, because for me, mine was just like a clock. Okay, they started thinning out. Okay, it stopped Halloween. I thought that was funny. Um, had the hot flashes where my children are laughing at me because I'm on a plane and 1 minute I'm hot, next minute I'm tearing off my clothes because I feel like I'm burning up, and then the next minute I'm putting back on all my
Because
clothes
you're cold,
because
yes.
I'm freezing. And so my daughter's across the aisle, and I am doing this every 10 minutes. And it's just like I'm like, I'm glad you're enjoying the show because this is going to be you because I'm your mother, and this is just for you. And then no one tells you that sometimes hot flashes don't go away. I was like, it's supposed to go away. Take with it when you go away. No, I still get hot flashes. I still run hotter than I used to. And then the biggest one for me is I didn't have it that bad. I still have the insomnia, but I became an artist. So you talk about the creativity has to express itself. I had a huge outlet in my art. So that really helped. But for me, what hit was when the really depleted was the aches and the pains and the joints and the, okay, I'm not feeling, but I'm not feeling, I feel my age or older.
Mm-hmm.
Western medicine, I even asked my doctor, hey, even, was it hormone replacement therapy? And he was just, didn't even test me. No, just flat out, no. It's like, oh, okay. We can't even talk about the what it could possibly do, just a no.
Mm.
So it's trying to find what works. Mine is just more of I don't want to ache anymore. I want to be able to move, get out the bed, and not have to do a certain push to to get up. Other than that, I'm thankful that my Aunt Mary is been years gone. She can stay gone, and she can say goodbye. So when you say those things, yes, I've always, different herbs but a lot of it was for me the solfeggio tones that helped me relax. It helped me stop, what is it called, ruminating in my head, because rumination went really high. Um, and that just really would stop my brain and slow me down and then breathing. I have an app for breathing, different types of breath work. And so I just kind of went holistic on my own, whatever I could find.
All right.
I just did my first breathwork session a couple of weeks ago. This woman is trying to become certified and she had to do a certain number of hours. So she was offering free sessions. I'd never done it before. I'd heard people talk about it. I was like, okay, I'm going to try it. And when I tell you, after 10 minutes, I felt like I had had a 3-hour nap. I
Mm.
was like, I was like, okay, I need to add that. Another friend hipped me to binaural beats.
Mm. Yeah.
And apparently it's best when you have like headphones in.
Yeah.
So I listen to that to go to sleep at night.
Yeah.
I have to, obviously I have to lay on my back because the earbuds are in my ears, but I put it on and there's like one particular channel on YouTube that I really like. And they have different ones. There's like one for if you have insomnia and you wake up to get you to fall back to sleep really quickly. And there's another one when you're feeling stressed out, and they're all different. But I get a much better night's sleep when I fall asleep listening to those. And
Mm.
sometimes it'll stay on and I'll wake up and it's still playing, but I've had like 6 hours of uninterrupted sleep, which is not the norm for me anymore. I couldn't tell you the last time I had like the recommended 8 hours of sleep. The older I get. And it's funny because people look at me and they're like, you're not 50. I'm like, I'm closer to 60, but thanks.
Yeah.
And then I'll sit for too long and I'll get up and my knees will be like, girl, you almost 60, sit down. Like yesterday was a really busy day for me. I was on my feet all day. And it was a good day, but when I got home and I sat down for a minute, it's like every muscle was just like,
Yeah.
and when I went to stand up, I was like, why does that hurt? Never used to be like that. But I'm also learning to rest when I need it and not force myself to do things. And I don't feel like going to brunch today. I'm not going to brunch today. I'm gonna stay home in my pajamas. And my favorite like self-care thing is to get up late in the morning and I'll make myself a cup of coffee in my little travel mug because it keeps it hot forever. And I'll make myself a little breakfast and I take my tray and I get back in my bed and I just couch potato all day, catch up on Netflix. But at the end of the day, and I'll get up like at 6 o'clock, take a shower, change my sheets, put sheets on, and get back in my bed for the rest of the night. And when I tell you that my Monday starts out so much better when I have that level of rest on a Sunday,
Mm.
and Denzel can invite me to dinner and I'll be like, nope, today's my self-care day. I'm not going out. Not going to do it.
I'm glad you said that because I just put my infrared belt on my back because I was like, okay, she just reminded me. I'm sitting here with my infrared belt. Those are the things, like you said, it's just like, they're a gadget for something. So
Yep.
absolutely. Yeah, I put my infrared belt on. I have I don't know what it's called, but they're like tuning forks that you can hit with the different tunes.
Mm.
You can put the point on like in different, like on your back or on your
Hmm.
forehead ache. So
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Never heard of that before.
Denicia?
I was just soaking in what they were doing, and I'm like, oh, that sounds
I
so
know.
lovely. Like,
Amazing. Yeah.
yeah. And they're like so when I was talking about that redirected energy and the heart, um, I think like so both of you were describing things that are the heart is under circulation.
Hmm.
And I think that's the thing is that the body pain for many, a lot of the body pains are in the joints.
Hmm.
And think about what joints do, their movement, right? And so it's like, And also, what can be in the joints at times that we find are, uh, we we call them retained pathogens, but they're more emotional related. And so sometimes it's like it can be, are there like old experiences that are lodged there, and then just not wanting to deal with it, and so it's just going to sit there, like the body will just kind of like retain it literally there so it's not
Hmm.
circulating without support. um
So before you go on, what do you mean by old experiences?
so it can be, I'm trying my best not to use this because it's just so overused that the I think that the depth and breadth of it has been very watered down.
Hmm.
But it could be traumatic experiences. um and they though can come in many forms. So it could even be, I somebody just cut me off while driving.
Okay.
It's things that could prompt the nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system, to activate. And what would cause it to activate is picking up on something around you that your level of survival has been threatened.
Okay.
Okay. So then you have that like pop up, right? And that's in sometimes when it comes to like movement, like that's the thing that some people feel is like the body's just like, I'm super tired right now. I'm not even gonna deal with this. Like the amount of cortisol that could have been pumping due to it just feeling like there's stressors going on inside and outside,
Hmm.
that it just gets to the point that the joints also can get dried out. Like, so when they need to be lubricated. And so sometimes when I hear somebody ask them, like, well, what are you eating? Some actually report that they don't need to eat as much as they get older, which is
Hmm.
great. Awesome. Fine. Right. But then we start looking at what they're eating. And so sometimes it's that whole, you're not getting enough protein even in your 50s, right? And then what they turn to for protein are protein shakes, protein bars, things like that, right? They tend to be drier.
Hmm.
And so that's where some might look at their bowel movements, and their bowel movements are not moving as easily. Right. And then, but they'll be like, well, I drink a lot of water to go with it. And it's like, well, you could actually get a lot of protein from some vegetables. Right. And if you see it, like they're cooked in stews, they're cooked for very long times. They're like, and so in Eastern medicine, we look at food therapies and whatnot, like that's what we're looking at. They're also very hydrating because those minerals literally that it helps to go into the body,
Hmm.
right? Eating fruits and different types of fruit, the more hydrating ones, the better. But just about all fruits are fine.
Yeah.
So like, you know, and sometimes that's really that can be playing a role to get that inflammation down.
Hmm.
Is really about the what they're eating. Like if it is fruit related, if you look at your plate and it looks like it's just dry food, think about it. Like literally, it's just dried out food. Like if
Yeah.
it's just pizza, if it's French fries, even if it's like I said, the protein bars, because I'll have conversations with some, and then literally that's what they're eating, or just different types. If it's Lara bars or Kind bars or whatever it is,
Yeah.
they're protein shakes and stuff, and it's like it's not live food. And so that can be playing a role. Um, and I say that because the insomnia that you're both speaking about as well, we use minerals as herbs because in those herbs, we call they're in categories to literally calm the shin, is what we call it, to calm the mind. They sedate. This is why people can go to the beach and just either sit along the beach side or they can be in the water and then all of a sudden be like, I just feel like I just been like, it's like that's
Yeah.
drunken, like, it's you're responding to the minerals. And so even herbally, we would probably look at clearing heat. We use them to clear heat also. And heat rises. This is why the mind keeps turning and turning and turning, especially at night. And there's this circulating heat that's going up and it's harassing the mind. And so we start looking at how do we clear this heat? How do we get the shin to calm? And then you'll start using minerals. And so now you'll see it like out on, I do this because I'm thinking the socials, like, and then all these people talking about you need your minerals, right? Like, and all this, man, and you do. Like, but you can get them in foods, you can get them in fruits, you can get them in vegetables. Um, a lot of people like juicing now. I would say when you juice or do those types of smoothies, please just monitor yourself. If you start seeing like your bowel movements are not moving as well, or they're getting sticky, or they're getting very loose, then that tells you it might be too cold. Like the energy of it is too cold.
Oh, yes.
And so then, therefore, you may not want to be doing that. And it's just this dance of harmony because I can understand what. Do you prefer Miss Avery or Catrice, or I don't know which? I heard both going
I
on.
call her everything.
I
Oh,
got so many names. It's fine. As long as you say it with love, sugar, I'm happy.
okay. Like I can see what you mean when you said like the heat, right? Like you run hotter. And so what'll happen is if you pay attention to where you start to like what are you gravitating towards in your food choices, and you start to realize like dang, I be wanting some smoothies, or like or I gotta have my iced drinks. And so sometimes some people do that naturally, and then if they know over time they'll catch themselves. And so it's like either they'll do it without thinking about it, and then some would be like, okay, I know this changed for me, so I'm feeling more bloated, like because it's so cold that in the digestive system it's not running as well, so things will start backing up and you just feel like slower to digest. And then some are they'll temper it. I think it just depends on what you know. So some might do juices and they'll put like cinnamon in it, or they're putting ginger in it because it's warming the coolness of
But
it.
it's funny that you're saying that, and I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's funny that
Okay.
because you talked about foods, and everybody was teasing me yesterday, including Miss Angela, because I made a spaghetti with 8 bell peppers in it. It was 8 bell peppers. I mean, I like 3 or 4 red. I had a yellow. I had 2 orange. I had 1 green because green could be very tart. But I had about 8 or 9 bell peppers chopped up for, and people where I stay are like, it smells good like bell peppers. And they're like, where's the meat? I have some meat in there. But for a pound of meat, you usually might use 1 or 2 bell peppers. I used 8. And then something was like, I want a carrot in here too. And now you're saying that, I didn't realize it, but bell peppers are protein. So my body was craving protein and it said, you don't like meat because I don't. And it's like, oh, I gotta eat more
Mm.
protein. But it naturally said, get you some bell peppers because I have been huge on bell peppers lately. It's funny. And then
And
this,
you know what else too? They have a lot of water.
yes,
So
yes,
you're
I
actually
noticed.
hydrating
Yes, I noticed that
yourself.
it was the sauce was, I didn't, it was had a lot of water. So, and then I noticed for me, you're saying smoothies. I'm a smoothie person. I haven't wanted smoothies lately. They're too cold.
Mhm.
It's like I want to run a certain temperature, and it's like, you know, you could put that powder in there for the protein and stuff, and I'll be like, I don't want a smoothie. I
Yeah.
don't want it. I don't want it. So it's just interesting that if you really do listen to your body, it'll tell you. But whereas, like, if Angela juices something or I have a cold press too, I'm down for it. I'm like, oh my gosh, not even refrigerated. It tastes best room
Right.
Room temp.
And
temperature.
temperature.
So
Yeah.
Yep.
it's just been what you're saying is just funny that we've been so conditioned to not listen to our bodies
Right.
Mhm.
that when you start listening, even when you don't realize it's your body, because like I said yesterday, everybody was laughing at me. They're like, that's weight. This is a big old saute, because I saw saute pan. I was like, look at the pretty colors. This is
I love it.
it was beautiful. Yeah, it was yummy to me, but I was like, everybody's like, oh, it's just, where's the meat? I'm like, we need meat. I'm like,
I was
So,
traveling for work a little bit, and when you're traveling for work, you kind of don't eat normally. I don't eat a lot. I don't eat a lot of meat. But it was like pizza and sandwiches and not having breakfast. And I got home at like 12 o'clock, and I was like, I want a salad. And I
yeah.
had nothing in my fridge because I'd emptied my fridge because I knew I was going to be like in and out over a week. I had like 3 trips. And I had to be somewhere at 5. And at 1 o'clock, I was like, okay, I have time. I got dressed. I went to the grocery store and bought vegetables and fruit. And I just came home and made a salad. And um, when we grew up, we always had a meat, a starch, and 2 vegetables. The vegetables did not have the broccoli, didn't have cheese sauce on it. It was just steamed vegetables. And I like the taste of vegetables. But I was just like, I don't want cooked vegetables. I had stuff in the fridge, in the freezer. I was like, I just want a salad.
Yeah.
And it was just like lettuce, cucumber. I made some homemade like Vietnamese pickled carrots and I threw that on there. And I was like, this is so good. I didn't even need salad dressing.
Yeah.
But I'm not a huge meat eater, but I feel like sometimes if I eat vegetables, I don't feel like it's enough protein. So my go-to is chickpeas.
Yep.
So I made
Chickpeas.
like some curried chickpeas with cauliflower the other day and it was delicious. And I was like, okay, this is my protein.
I'm about
And
to make some today with as a curry.
Say that again.
I was saying I actually have that on my in my mind right now because I have some bell peppers I bought the other day. I was gonna make a curry with chickpeas.
It was
And
I had it in the airport lounge in Miami and I was like, I'm gonna go home and make this because it was so good. And
yeah.
yesterday I bought another head of cauliflower and I have another can of chickpeas and I'm gonna make some more. And I'll just eat it a little bit every day until it's gone.
But
that's
you
what
both oh,
I was going to ask you. So that I've heard, and I know Catrice has heard this too. Doctors are now saying, well, you need more protein, you need more protein. And I'm like the other two ladies. I'm not a big meat eater.
Mhm.
I like my fish. I do like fish, but I'm not a big meat eater. But now I'm hearing more as we're getting older, you need more protein. And I'm thinking, okay, so does that mean I need to increase my steak? I don't eat meat like that. So trying to find that balance and trying to find, okay, what type of protein should I be consuming if, I really don't want to eat the chicken or the steak. And like I said, I will eat fish, but I'm not eating that every day. It's too doggone expensive. So I'm not, because I
Mhm.
want to get the good fish if I'm gonna get it. But what do you suggest, Denise, here for women, on our age, going through menopause, and we're being told now to eat more protein? What would be your suggestion?
so I want to tell y'all something because this surprised me when I was in school too. Um, one of them being the liver processes a lot of, I mean, it processes pretty much everything that we take in, right? Like that it
Hmm.
goes
Mhm.
through the liver to be. You also know that, did you know that cholesterol also is created out of the liver as well?
Right. Hmm.
Okay. When it comes to protein, we can only digest so much, it'll convert it to cholesterol. So
No
sometimes when
way.
you're actually overdoing it at one time and
Mhm.
it can only do so much at one time, it's just going to store it until it can so-called deal with it later, but it may not ever like be able to deal with it later.
Mm-hmm.
And then can aid in cholesterol production. Um, so that's one thing. And then for it to be meat that's predominantly sold as a source of protein, and they can inflame also. And so it's like this double whammy, right? Um, Chickpeas is a great one, lentils, actually, and quinoa. Take a look at I want to say it is I think it's spelt in, if you look at your ancient grains like in TEF, look at the ancient grains, they actually have a wider profile than one might think, right? Um, then also I wanted to point out something that both Katrece and Leslie actually described, and I don't know if they're aware of it. Um, they actually are starting to eat more seasonally.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the other thing, is that like when people are talking about eat this and eat that, they go they go like factory mode. So think about how pervasive it is that we were trained to be like productive, this level of productivity, this number of days of the week during these hours, blah
Right.
blah blah. You think it's only in your job, but actually it started in school.
Right.
And so like it's that long standing, right? So that translates into how we do a lot of stuff. So including what we might eat, right? And how we might eat. So you have a bunch of people that are like, well, I got to eat this way, this many things, this time. It has to be these macros, blah, 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 right?
Right.
They do all of that. And they removed, what did they remove? They removed diversity, and they removed the tuning into the environment and the seasonal environment. So Catrice is like, yeah, you learned, you see how you were taught to not listen to your body.
Right.
And that this is another way that that happens. It is getting warmer. So you start looking at what produce now, you this is it's like you'd have to just go and research this, because since so many of the produce can be made at any time of the year, you look at the ones that are most natural to being like grown and harvested at this time of the year.
Right.
And so you'll notice that it is peppers, it is watermelon.
Mm-hmm.
It is squashes. It's so some squashes, like the summer
Right.
squashes, but like it's cucumbers. You see them. All of those I described have heavy water content that come out in the summer when it's hot.
Right.
You see, and then in the lettuces, same thing, right? And so you're actually tuning into even that like form of hydration and getting nutrients, and then you're allowing yourself to fluctuate with it, like to fluctuate with what you need, which could be at different times, different needs, right? If it's a higher stressor moment for you, you could possibly be using more minerals at that time than you think. And then you start to notice that you might actually be wanting to lean to more of that heavier type of food, like where you don't want meat usually all the time, but at that one particular time, you get this inkling like, I think I just want to have a steak right now. And then you just eat the steak. But then you realize it was just that one time, because all of a sudden you don't want it anymore. Right.
Right.
And so in a lot of cases, if you were to eat that diverse, some people would get annoyed by it because they're like, crap, now I got to go and shop here. I got to go change this. Or if you're cooking for other people and they're trying to do the same thing. And so logistically, it can get you know, um, and it can get annoying. And some people, like my husband, be like, "Why do you buy this if you aren't even gonna eat?" I said, "Well, I had a little bit. That's what I wanted." And so then, like, and now I'm just something else is peeking up like that. I want that. So like, so it's like allowing yourself to tune in and just really know it. It knows,
Yeah.
and it'll just be like, "Hey, here you go," right? I know I will say that like some of it is bacteria guided, um, depending on what how some things present. Some of it is parasite guided,
Mm.
and it's what they're craving for themselves to survive. So like I feel like once you put that up against like whatever else is going on against the greater landscape for you, it might be worth looking at that. Like that'll tell you, is it probiotics that you might need? Is it a parasite cleanse right now that you might need? And then as kind of like a reset, or is it just a 2 day fast? And to just reset. So like, so all of those things can play a role. But to answer your question about the protein, really take a look at some of these vegetables. Um, dried beans, um if you can, would do those, and just make sure you soak them overnight. Either soak them overnight, or I use an instant pot, and so sometimes I'll just put them in there, and I'll literally just put them in there for on like a 10-minute cycle, and then I take all that stuff off that's there, and I'll just pour them out, and then I'll go and cook them. Sometimes you can put vinegar in there too, and that'll help. That's with those things like lectins that some people might have some sensitivities to.
Mm.
Um, and then also when you're talking about the salads and um, spinach and kale, some of those like tend to be more common. Go look. I ask you to put on the hat and look from through the lens of agriculture and capitalism. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when things get very popular, understand there runs a risk of there's this increased demand. So what corners are going to be cut to produce it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I say that because I'm seeing a lot of things that are switching up again, like they always do. But like, and then what they're saying, like, oh, have kale all the time, have spinach all the time. But well, if you do it in gross amounts, like great big huge gross amounts, and especially for those that juice and they're juicing like however much of it, and the next thing you know, they're reporting issues with their thyroid or the effects of the thyroid. It could be that, right?
Right.
And so diversify. That's my big thing is diversify, diversify, diversify. If you have a market produce stands, one way to know what's in season is they're usually marked cheaper.
Okay.
Another is you can even ask them because they're buying, right? You can even ask them what's really in season, and they can tell you. Another trick is I'll go to the Asian markets also and get things from them. I know a friend of mine, they're right. I haven't really found them around here, but like the Caribbean markets, I know in other places, they're more popular, not necessarily where I'm at. So I haven't really found them, but I know that I've heard like in the Caribbean markets that they'll have like a whole bunch more of the fruits, especially the fruits that are there. Like they'll have green coconuts to drink that water versus bottled water, or they'll have fresh soursop to also eat. Like they'll have those very hydrating. I mean, this is why a lot of fruits produce at this time of year.
Right.
And so listening to yourself in that regard, I really feel like that's it. It's not just protein. I think it's minerals really that is what we really need a lot more of
Yeah.
at that time. Protein, yes, but there's when you overdo it with protein at one time, like it can really, some people don't feel well.
Right.
Like they know it's slowly digesting and they could be their stomach acid is low. There aren't the digestive enzymes that's there. Like, so, and that's why they feel like that. So to kind of just throw people out to the wolves and be like, just eat more protein, and they
Right.
end up feeling worse. It sucks.
And isn't that true as we get older that our digestive enzymes and, aren't working the way they used to, or low, what maybe is it low stomach acid or whatever,
Hmm.
but yeah, that changes as well. And that's what I find for myself. If I eat too much meat, like if I have a steak, I'll share one with my husband and I'll just take a little piece because I know I won't be able to digest it well. And then I'll be feeling it for the next the next week. So yeah, so that
Well, I
yeah.
think because there's other, so in our here, we didn't really eat, like have bitters, like
Mm,
liquid bitters. You know what I mean?
right,
So, like
right.
in some other cultures, if you actually look at what they pair with their foods,
Yeah.
it's like a reason why.
Are you talking about
So,
like kimchi or something? Is that
oh,
kimchi?
kimchi.
Kimchi,
Yeah. So
things like
kimchi
that.
is an example, or like those who would eat sushi and there would be ginger, pickled ginger
Yes.
served with
Yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm,
The
hmm.
ginger is anti-parasitic. The
Oh,
wasabi is heat that's
yeah.
added to cold, raw fish, right?
Right.
You see, so you can see this harmonizing that's happening there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like if you did have the steak, like there's bitters. So like you could get tinctures of bitters. When you look, I prefer tinctures for a lot of things. And the reason why is because most tinctures, if you can, I know that there are some that might be in recovery, and so they don't want anything that herbs have been steeping in alcohol, and that's fine. So you'll see some that have
Hmm.
been steeped in glycerin. Sometimes it's a glycerin base, and then some
Right.
others might use water. But like if I prefer the alcohol for my case, because it can bypass the digestive system. So
Okay.
usually it goes straight into the bloodstream and takes those herbs with it.
Mhm.
And so with the bitters, we have more bitter receptors along our digestive tract than any other taste, any other flavor.
Oh,
And this is why we might be attracted to, but we don't do it. Like with all the sorts of lettuces, if you allow yourself to just look, if that's home play for anybody, just go to a market, like not the perfectly curated one. I want you to go to like a really like a produce market and allow yourself. Catrice already spoke it. The colors of the peppers and stuff.
right.
You allow yourself to look at and just be immersed in those colors, and you will see like you just get drawn. You get drawn
Right.
in.
Yeah.
Those bitter greens come in so many different forms that you can use them in, and they help with digestion. They activate literally the bitter receptors. They start in our mouth and go all the way through the digestive tract.
Okay.
And they help with that. Like, and if you got a bottle of bitters as a tincture, you can have that on the side. If there are some digestive issues that you might have, or it's slow, like a slower moving type of digestive tract, then bitters might be up your alley to try out.
So now, since we're talking about food, and I'm sure all three of, or yeah, the three of us can really attest to this, our weight fluctuation.
Oh.
So, what do you, I mean, how do you help your clients when they're coming in? They're like, look, I'm gaining all this weight. How do I at least try and get it under control? And of course, one is the foods, but
Mhm.
how does menopause play into the weight gain, and why? And what are some remedies that might be able to help with that?
Yeah. So those hormones
Wait,
that,
before you start,
oh, oh
I
yeah.
just wanted to add, because you're gonna see if this adds to it. I tried to lose weight using what's the keto method,
Hmm.
and I actually gained.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the doctor. I was like, this is ridiculous. I am working out 5 days a week. I am eating keto, which I don't like all this meat and stuff and eggs and bleh. And I used to be as cheese was my friend. I can't, cheese and me are not friends anymore. And he said, your body has shifted. You are now more plant-based. Your body is not digesting animal products anymore, not the way you need to. So he was like, you really need, and he's right. I eat protein just a little bit, but yeah, fruits and vegetables make my heart sing. It's like this weird, but it's different. Like even cheese, I can do the white cheese, like mozzarella or a little Parmesan, but cheddar,
Yeah.
no. So I just was before you said it, I just want to see if there, because literally I went from more one thing to completely more my body prefers
Mm-hmm.
something else.
Yeah.
Cheese is
Oh.
why I can't be vegan. I can't. A glass of red wine and some good cheese, I'm good. And I'm like you, Angela. If I want steak, I'll have steak, but I'll usually do it when I go out to dinner. And it'll be like filet mignon because it's usually just a small piece. And then I'm good on red meat for like months,
Yeah.
months. Chicken all the time, fish all the time, but red meat, I can do without it. But and I actually I just started following a woman on Instagram that cooks Middle Eastern food.
Mm.
And she has this recipe for this lentil dish with rice. And it has like
Mm.
500 different spices in it. So I think I'm going to try that this week.
Is it My Mana Bites? I think that's her kind of.
No, it's she's actually Australian, I want to say. Um it's it's Sunday Kitchen AU.
Oh,
She's
okay.
Okay.
Australian, but she's like Lebanese or something.
Oh, okay.
I'll have to
But
look
her
her up.
recipes, I'm like, and she very rarely cooks meat, but everything always looks so good and like 500 different spices in it. So now I gotta go to the grocery store and buy all the spices.
It's the colors. Oh my gosh, like the
Hmm.
colors just, and that's the thing. It's like eat the rainbow.
Yeah.
Like literally eat the rainbow. There, like most meat, like if you look at meat, there is no rainbow to it really,
Mm-mm.
like
Oh,
at all, right? And so we activate, we even activate our whole digestive tract visually and by and smell is first.
right.
And so if we're like hurrying and in a rush and we don't even allow that to happen, we actually aren't even like, so you already called it out. The stomach acid may already be low. And then what happens prior to that, the mind and the sight and the smell starts to use to be like, hey, start producing more acid because we're about to eat. We like speed through that whole process
Hmm.
typically. Right. And so, like, those are ways to help out the Catrice, that identification of the certain types of cheese. I think it's the casein that's in it. That's why some could eat feta or goat cheese, but they
Yeah.
can't eat other types. And so it's not like they're lactose intolerant. It's actually a protein that is not in things like goat cheese or feta, but it's in cheddar and all these other ones, right?
Yeah.
And so then that's how I noticed that for myself too. And then I ended up learning about it and I was like, oh, holy guacamole, that's what that is. And it was like, oh, okay, okay. So like um, um but yeah, like it's over time it is that like those meats are, it's a lot of inflammatory things
Okay.
that are in there, right? Like and as you get older, like, and you're already talking about body pains and whatnot, that, and we're talking like cortisol and estrogen are kind of like buddies. So if estrogen went up, cortisol can go up. If cortisol goes up, estrogen can go up. And then if you add in like blood sugar and then the issues with insulin and stuff too, they're all playing a role, right? But then once you get into menopause, It's like, oh, well, the estrogen is not really producing as much. So it's going to be cortisol probably that's going to respond to it. And
Okay.
then that is where that can inflame also just from high presence of it. And people, cortisol is not the devil. Like so many people are like, oh, I got to get this. And no, you want it to be working because it's a part of your whole nervous system that's supposed to support you when you feel like you're under attack. And so if something legit was going on and your spidey senses weren't working, like you really want those spidey senses to work. But we just don't want it to seem like it's got to be working all the time. So
Okay.
that's the thing. And what helps it to replenish the adrenal glands, to replenish the thyroid, they are heavily replenished by minerals. And you get more minerals out of vegetables and fruits, right? You some even in the ones that grow underground.
Mhm.
So you're some of the potatoes like yams, like purple yams, and then you have sweet potatoes also, right? So you can get from there. When it comes when it is the weight fluctuations, I do ask also like what type of movement are you doing engaged in, like physical movement. um it doesn't have to be CrossFit, right? Like if but some body type resistance does actually help. That helps more with osteoporosis as well. One way that the bone knows to grow more bone is actually when it beats against something.
Mm.
So that feeling all along these bones, the two bones here and the ulna and the radius, if you were like a simple, like, let me just push up off, like, or the ground or be on a wall and you're doing the wall things, that type of pressure, right, gets it to be like, oh, we can use more bone. Let's produce more bone in here. And it can do that. Some would say, oh, they're doing the vitamin D and the vitamin D with K2, right?
Mhm.
You can overdo it, especially if there's other minerals that you actually need instead of the D. So doing something like so for some people, I'll do a hair tissue mineral analysis, and then to get a picture of what is going on there. It's not just, oh, keep taking calcium. Some can actually be taking calcium and creating calcium deposits. So sometimes the body pain is actually calcium deposits
Okay.
throughout the body. So think some people think like plantar fasciitis or something like that, right? And it's that's not the only place that calcium deposits can be. Calcium deposits, this is what's cool too. They even have a test to look for calcium in the cardiovascular system, meaning
Oh.
your vessels. Because why? Some of that time, it's not cholesterol that's blocking, it's calcium.
Mm.
So, all that time they're telling people take all this calcium, take all this vitamin D, it's promoting calcium deposition throughout the body, including the vessels.
Wow.
And that
Okay.
calcium is hard. Like, think about on your faucets, right?
Mhm.
Think about on your faucets, and you're like, dang it, I need, and you keep poking that, trying to get it, and that's in the vessels. It
Yes.
stiffens the vessels. So even
Mm.
that I can't really move as freely, imagine it's not just your arms and your legs, but it's internally. So where are those vessels stiffening because of that? And then now, if they're saying eat more protein, but they're not really guiding you, and the only thing that you think of to eat is meat. And so, like, that's making it worse too. And so, you'll have another marker be high, which is your HSCRP. That'll show up on the blood work.
Yeah.
And so, that's a inflammatory marker as well. So, that could be high. But if you could really take a look at how could you turn a little bit more, if you're not if you're still wanting to eat meat, which is fine, like if you still want to eat meat, but let's just say you want to ease up on it, like what Leslie was saying, right? Like chicken, fish more, they are lighter, they tend to digest faster than beef and pork, and lamb those tend to take a lot longer also to digest. Do that. But look at your plates in meals and see where you can be 80 to 85% vegetable,
Mhm.
right? And then having fruits, and have your fruits away from your meals. So away from meeting at least 2 hours.
Mm.
I know. It was surprising to me too. So I'm in the process of changing how I eat it myself. It's taking some time because I'm so used to doing it a certain way. But like,
Mhm.
yeah, like if you can eat them at least like 2 hours, because some people have dessert, they'll have like a fruit salad or fruit mix as
Yeah.
dessert, but they're eating it just after a big meal. Actually, if you can spread them apart, you would really be able to take advantage of the nutritional contents from the fruit
Do you
Oh,
more
recommend
so.
do you recommend organic fruit or does it not matter?
If it stresses you out to get organic, then please don't. Like, don't bother by it. And
Yeah.
if you can, though, yes.
Hmm. Hmm.
And okay, so here I say if you can, yes. If you can't, okay, but look for things like have them be seated. So
Hmm.
like so like one of the like at Aldi, right? Like Aldi and like Sam's Club, bags of like lemons and limes, and I'm looking and I'm like, "Ooh, those look nice." Then I see they're seedless and I'm like,
yep.
"Ooh, oh
Hmm.
no."
Mm-mm.
Right? So look for things that are, it's supposed to have a seed and you don't see that it has seeds, then don't get it, right? Like that
Right.
goes for watermelon as well. Another thing is if you cut that apple and it does not brown, or you cut
Hmm.
the pear and it's not browning, you might want to change and look for something else, right? Like, and it may not be organic, but it's just the fact that it's not browning, something ain't quite sitting right. And so, like, so there's that. I know you can look at the top dirty lists or something. And so you can look at that and see they produce that, I think, like once a year of if you were to eat organic, at least do these top 12. Like, right.
Hmm.
I go in though with the lens of capitalism, like I said. So I also look and see like, how neutral is this list? And then so who's
Right.
involved in this list? So you could take a look at that. Since we were talking about that top list, I know this isn't food, but it's skin. So the EWG has a database, the environmental something group. But they have an app as well. And believe there's another app. So all of those things that some people would use during this time, like their anti-wrinkle creams, retinol, cleansers, lotions, makeups, all of that stuff. You can go on their list on their website, put the products in, and they have a rating system to let you know about those that might be hormonal disruptors or types of chemicals that would just kind of linger in our fat cells and stuff. So those are things that will play around with the hormones too. Uh,
What's that? You said EWG?
yeah.
Okay.
I can't remember what the W stands for,
There's
but it's
an app. I can't remember the name of it. It's like good something. And it's supposed to tell you if things have like harmful chemicals and stuff in them or not. I can't remember the name of it though.
I know
If
that
I can
there's
find it, Angela, I'll send you a message.
Okay.
I
yeah,
like
there's a couple of them that have some good apps out there.
yeah, I
Yeah.
just can't remember the name. I think I downloaded it and then deleted it for some reason.
Oh,
When I
okay.
travel, I like to go to grocery stores and look at the difference in what we call produce and what they call produce. I remember a couple of years ago, I was in South Africa. It was a while back. And my friend and I were like, there's no organic produce section because that's their standard. Everything,
Right.
the apples and oranges were this big, not the size of your head.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of friends that travel a lot, and they all say that when they travel, they eat like royalty, but they lose weight.
Yep.
And they
Mm-hmm.
feel like you can like full 3 course meal and they feel fine. And here it's like they eat a burger and they feel like they want to take a nap.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I feel like they're like, I mean, it's also, I think it's all capitalism and tied to healthcare because if people are healthy, they're not going to the doctor and they're not buying
Exactly.
prescriptions. And you don't see in other countries. Where was I yesterday? In the grocery store by one of the, like they have like a hot food section. It was Harris Teeter. And there's an ad for some kind of prescription medicine in the grocery store. You can't watch TV for like 30 minutes without every second commercial being ask your doctor about. And
Right.
it's like it's for allergies and the side effects could be like heart attacks and liver failure. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna sneeze if I'm gonna
Where
risk
you,
liver
where,
failure for allergy. But it's
right.
like,
Where you don't see that in other countries. They don't have those type of commercials in other
right.
countries.
And it
So,
blows me away. And like one of my friends was saying, healthcare is about making patients, not making people healthy.
oh no,
Mm,
not in this country. No, no.
And I
mm.
got fortunate. I have a black PCP.
Mm.
My every medical person that I see is a person of color. My dermatologist, orthopedic, everybody's a person of color. And I like my doctor because she's a little bit younger than me. She's Jamaican, she's a black woman, and she listens to me. And
Yeah.
her go-to is not, here's a prescription.
Right. Right.
She had concerns about my blood pressure, and she was like, well, I'm going to give you this. And I was like, I don't want to be on blood pressure meds for the rest of my life. But we figured out I was taking Sudafed for my sinuses.
Oh,
And
yeah. And
when
that,
the weather changes from like cold to warm or wet to dry, I can like feel the barometric, like I can feel it in my face. So
Right.
when it's bad, I was taking Sudafed every 4 hours. Like I was one leave home without it just in case I got a headache, traveling with it. And
Yeah.
somebody say, yeah, Sudafed makes your blood pressure go up. And I just stopped taking it. And when I went back to her, she's like, your blood pressure is normal. What have you been doing? I was like, I stopped taking the medicine you gave me, but I also stopped taking Sudafed. And she was like, yeah, because when they ask you what medicines you're on,
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not a prescription. I wasn't thinking about it. So I didn't. And she's like,
oh,
yeah, if I'd known you were on Sudafed, we wouldn't have done it. And it was only for like 4 months anyway. But I was like, no, I'm not going back there. So if I get a sinus headache now, I'm just like, hot compress, turn the lights off, relax until it goes away. But it's like so many of my friends is like they complain about something, here's a prescription. Complain about something else, here's a prescription. And it's like they just want us to be unhealthy, especially in communities of color, right? If you
Right.
look at there's a convenience store, there's fast food, there's a liquor store, but there's nobody selling fresh produce. And even in the grocery stores, they do have the fresh produce is not good quality.
Mm-mm.
yeah. And then they'll say, well, those communities don't eat it. Even if
Mm-hmm.
we were to bring it there, they won't eat it.
But if
And
you
it's
gave
like,
it to
I'm
them,
like, are you sure about that? I was like, are you, how accurate is this? Like,
That's
I don't
just the
know.
information that they're feeding. They're feeding, the communities, and the communities
Yeah.
buy into it, but it's
yep,
not true. It's
yep.
not
Yeah.
true.
I did want
So,
to point out something, Angela, real quick,
Mhm.
just because Leslie had mentioned it.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, like if their paperwork, if whoever you're going to see, if their paperwork does not say including over the counter,
mhm,
include everything. Like now, just because you would have done your job, like you would have done your due diligence in informing them.
mhm,
Mhm.
Um, but I mean everything. I'm talking, I want to know if you're doing some herbs. I want to know what supplements you're also taking as well. Because that is where you can catch when there are interactions,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
not only between them, but like in your case, the blood pressure thing. Yeah, that's why a lot of cardiac patients, they tell them if you ever get sick, don't take Sudafed. Or you can look in the aisle of Sudafed and you can see where some would say we're heart safe. But
mhm.
it's also
Mm.
like you can
Okay.
read the packaging and it tells you so much about what they do slash how they might interact. So
Right.
like, but for whenever you're going to see someone, like definitely include those types of things as well. Um, and like if you're interested in like herbs and you're going to see someone that does put these formulas and stuff together, because we are looking at that. Like if you're on a blood thinner, I would not be using certain types of herbs for that reason. Like,
Right.
and so, and some even with like like some serotonin SSRIs that some people might be on for mental health reasons. Like there's just some herbs you don't do because they'll interact with it. So it definitely inform of what it is that you're taking, please, including your vitamins. Like, please do that because at least you would have told them. And some pharmacies, they don't offer this, but technically, your pharmacist is supposed to be your fallback. Like, so they're supposed to know and have on file everything that you're taking because they're also supposed to be able to say, I see that you're taking this and I see that this is also prescribed. So they're supposed to be able to talk to you about that. So if they are not proactive in that, you can actually ask them to review as well.
Okay. So, in your opinion, how would you, this is for Denicia, how would you advise women to better prepare for menopause and the years after?
If you're actively menstruating, take a look at your menstruation patterns. So one of the first things that I would ask about is how was it for you when you were actively menstruating regularly? A lot of what could be seen as to how menopause, the transition is going to go, can be seen in the way that you menstruated. So me hearing that there was even a hysterectomy at that age, I'm now very curious. Like, oh, and then because we could see some of those patterns kind of go along pathophysiology wise in the way that someone's presenting now into perimenopause and in menopause and then going continuing along. We see it as a trajectory. So like we could see and then we ask like, well, if we were to harmonize these, then could we potentially delay or just this won't happen, right? Um, I'm always trying to paint a picture to see like what's influencing one another. Sometimes though, it can be things that just seem like it's out of nowhere. And that is when I really see the mental, emotional, and the spiritual components playing a role. So it could be, excuse me, like something like um a death in the family, right? After you doing caregiving for someone. And then all of a sudden they would have passed on, but you're presenting with a cancer diagnosis or something else, right? That's the body's response to that stressor that happened. And then now it's like, boom, really pronounced right now. And so you'll see that happen a lot with people. So to better prepare, I would say really take a look at how you're actively menstruating. If there's anything issues there, get that harmonized as much as possible. And that will really prepare you for actually going into the transition. So I think Angela paused. So if y'all have any questions, go ahead.
I know before I stopped, I was taking Vitex as a
Mm.
herb, and it was very helpful to just keep me regular. But I don't know if a lot of people know about that.
Vitex?
Vitex.
Oh,
Yeah. Chase tree berry.
oh,
It's a nice herb. I would say if you use it to cycle it, meaning like days on, days off, days on, days off. Some even break it down by the cycle. So like they'll only take it like for half of the cycle and then not take it the other half and then they'll do the other like they'll keep cycling it that way. But yeah,
Katrece, you said that was when you were menstruating, you took that? Okay. Was that recommended by your doctor or is that just something you found?
I Googled, did some research.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Okay. Yeah.
just did some research because like I said, I rather take minerals and herbs than
Right.
regular
Yeah.
medication. But I will, and the thing I will add, there are benefits to menopause too. People don't think about it, but my benefit is I got boobs. I'm not gonna lie. I had people tell me, "Did you get a boob job?" And I'm like,
Really?
"No, yeah,
I've
yes,
never heard of that
I
before.
had good bra days. That's when I had great boobs. It was good bra days. I
Hmm.
ditched the bra. Menopause hit. I even asked the doctor. He says, "Yeah, that happens sometimes." I was like, "Okay." There past 3 years. This is new.
I've
I'm
never heard
still.
of that before.
I don't know other people, but for me, I got boobs. I was like, I don't have to go get it. Yeah.
That's
I think
awesome.
that benefits too. I'm just saying. Maybe
I mean,
Tanisha, but he was like, yeah, that happens sometimes. I was like, oh, okay.
no, I mean, I think, I mean, menopause, yes, you go through all the changes, the hormonal changes,
Mhm.
the mood changes, but you also go through, for me, it's been a spiritual awakening. And you kind of touched upon that, Denicia, in the beginning. But for me, it's been like, you know what? I'm finding who I am and I'm liking who I am. So
Yeah.
there is that part. You got to go through, I would say, go through the valleys. But if you take the time to really put yourself first in
Mhm.
this stage in life and really look at who you are and who you want to become,
Mhm.
this is to me the most empowering stage in my life. So I can't complain about menopause. Um,
I
but
find that like that's where I like when I am working with women on that, it's they don't know. So there's that, right? Like there's an I don't really know. So they're in that discovery. But
right,
then there's also the I do know what it is that I want to do, but I'm scared to try to do it. And
right,
then or it's I do know what I want to do, but I'm not sure how I want to do it, right? And
right,
so like it's kind of like those three camps. And then we end up like playing around with all of those and trying to see like, okay, so what are those little tweaks in your environment that you can do that basically creates the pathway for you to be that, to
right,
be, you call it becoming, and I'm like, it's a being to me. Like it's how do you be that? And then where there is the confusion, that's when I start looking at what what symptoms, my signals, what are those signals saying?
right,
What direction, what guidance, what insight are they giving? And then I just present it to you and then you self-reflect. And then it's just like all these things start coming up and they start popping out. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. So then like let's work on this. And then we, like let's
right,
go this
right,
direction. And then that's how you start using the food to support you. You start using herbs to support you, or you might do other activities and things like that. Like those are all meant to me. That's how I see people is like, we're not treating the menopause or anything. Actually, it really is a great big transition moment of your really that core being to come out. And it's like, who is that? And it's going to shake some shit up for a lot of people. And they actually need that support in navigating that process. It's not so much who they become, it's actually the process of, because you're like rethinking a lot of stuff that you're like, oh my gosh, I supposedly was supposed to put my kids first, and then now I'm supposed to do this for myself, but I don't even know what that means.
right.
I don't
Yeah,
even know what that looks like. Oh, now I'm divorced. There goes my friends. How do I make friends? Like to see
right.
so many that are in this age that are like, how do I make friends? And I'm 45
Yes,
and I'm 50,
yes. Yeah,
you
yeah,
know? It's like, and all of it because you're seen as a whole person, that all plays a role
right,
into how you're presenting. So, yeah, during perimenopause, that's if you look at it as a time, not necessarily biologic, but like look at it just as a time phase. So, like during that perimenopausal phase, like what are the transitions and the changes that are happening in your life and for you? And then it just it keeps going right into the
Right.
menopause and stuff. And we're looking at ways that we can put things into the environment, remove things from the environment, change it so that as you navigate through it, it is that just that empowering for yourself.
Yeah. I know one thing I'm tired of though, and this is a whole nother podcast I'm gonna have. I am tired of, and I've been seeing it more and more, how women in our 50s, we're looked at like, okay, well, you're in your 50s. Really, what good are you now?
Mm-hmm.
What's your use? You can't
Oh,
have kids. You're no longer young and vibrant and blah, blah, blah. And these are from older men.
Vance.
And
And
don't be single,
uh,
because if you're single,
Oh,
it's just gonna be you and your cat,
and
because nobody
that's
wants.
what's pissing me off. It's like, excuse me, you are a 50-something-year-old man yourself. You are not at your prime
Well,
anymore. But
yeah.
and
anyway, that's another, we won't go there because that's not what this is about.
we won't talk
I'll have to
about the
have Miss
50
Avery
something
on here. We'll have that
celebrities that are trying to
conversation.
date 20-year-old women.
I'm sorry, Leslie, say that
We
again.
won't talk about the 50 something year old celebrities that are trying to date 20 and 30-year-old women.
Yeah, right. I mean, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. I'm just
Yep.
hearing it from, perusing on social media and these older men talking about younger women and how I don't want no older woman. I'm like, okay. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. I'm just saying that's my pet peeve right now. That's gonna have to be another episode. I'll have you on, Katrece, because
Okay.
and Leslie, you too. Because
Okay.
I'm not out there in these streets, but I'm just
I
tired
want
of
to
hearing
watch it.
that.
I want to watch it when y'all do it.
I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of it. Don't act like you're okay. Anyway,
But it does play a
I'll
role. I mean,
stop.
it plays a role into now. Like it plays a role into our conversation simply because that is in essence purpose.
Mm,
And so then if someone feels like there is no purpose for them and they are in that perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopausal phase, it will affect how they present physically.
Yeah.
It
mm,
comes in the form of depression. It
mm,
comes in the form of edema. It
Mm.
comes in the form of over worrying and ruminating. It comes in the form of weight. It comes in the form of shortness of breath. It comes in all these different forms
Hmm.
of what you described. If they believe and if they are in agreement with that common sentiment that is it sucks
Yeah.
because it's just not those communities that do actually really honor and revere and respect the women that are in those groups
Right.
because they know the wisdom and the power that they contain and what they can do for that, like,
Right.
right, so like, but if they believe and they are in agreement with that, or they don't even see what their purpose is themselves, it will
mhm,
come out physically.
Right.
So that's why it's like no amount of protein, no amount of supplements or anything that you can do is going to really take a foothold and an anchor until she realizes, like, I am purposeful. I do bring this to the connective. And so like it's so interrelated, but they may not see it because they're just going to be so focused on getting menopausal symptoms to go away.
Right.
But it's really that. That's fine. Bless you, Katrece.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I have just one more question for you, Denicia, and then Catrice and Leslie. I have my ending questions for you two. They're the same question for you, Leslie and Catrice. But
Okay.
so Denicia, balancing traditional medicine and the advice with holistic approach. How do you recommend that? How do you recommend balancing those two? Because we're in the Western world. Um, you know, it is what it is. I personally, I hesitate going to Western doctors. I do to get my yearlies, to get my blood work. But I prefer personally to go to someone who, like you, is doing Eastern medicine and finding alternative holistic healing practices. But there are some women who are very into, I want a Western doctor and a little apprehensive about going to other holistic or other ways of healing. What would be your recommendation to them?
Mm. I would say I would invite you to kind of, get your favorite beverage and journal, whether it's audio journal or written journal and ask yourself, what are you actually really seeking?
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, are you seeking, as Leslie pointed out, because you want someone that's going to hear you and that's listening? What are you really seeking? Someone that's going to be super hyper specialized, or do you want something that's like, you'd have to know what it is that you're looking for? Because when you know what it is you're looking for, as you start to go out there and you interview who you want on your care team, then you now know what it is that you're looking for. So it's almost like create a job description. And but you'd have to know what role you want them to play. And this is going to take some straight up honesty with yourself. And I say this because there are people who would go and seek and they'll say, I just want them to listen to me or whatever. And the thing is there's a certain validation that they're actually seeking. So it's something that's being projected onto a provider or a practitioner, but it's something within them. And so sometimes that's, they don't see that. And so then they'll practitioner hop. But really you're just wanting someone to be to like validate in a way that makes whatever it is that you're doing okay, when it needs to be like just straight up from you, you know that you're okay, right? Like, and we are the icing on the cake, but you're the cake.
Okay.
And having that, knowing where what your motivation is going to really direct and guide you. You can blend the two and just know that not everyone is going to play well together. Like, meaning you could literally go and come and see me and then go and see your OBGYN and they'd be like, oh, that's not working, even though you know that's the one thing. So this is why it's important to start with yourself first, because you're going to need to find your grounding because of people that you're going to come across that may end up like going against each other and you feel like you're stuck in the middle. And sometimes that feeling stuck in the middle to me creates more stress. So, kind of like seeing, even if it's a really, really, really great provider, right, in their field, like, so in their lane, they're awesome, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can have that conversation and just tell them, like, this is what I am doing. You can say it's not working, but I'm telling you it is because the blood work, whatever. So, either we can continue in this relationship because I love what we're doing, but don't, I prefer you not to speak ill of whatever I'm doing unless you see something change dramatically in my test results or in my labs or in my scans or something like that. Right.
Right.
Because sometimes that's what it's an ego thing. So there is the ego that's involved as well as to who's working, who's not. But then also just like you want to be transparent with them of what you're doing because it can actually impact what they're doing. So just it's that it can be quite scary. It can be quite frustrating to try to talk these things through, like Katrece, like going to someone and being like, I'm listening to solfeggio tunes, that's how I'm getting to sleep now, and that ain't working, like, you know. And so like right. And then sometimes it's because they may not even know about it, so instead of them just saying, oh, tell me more about it, they'll just kind of like shut it down. And so I would say that the more grounded you are and centered in you and what you're looking for, interviewing your care team, you can always change your care team.
Right.
And then also keep this is something that I want to create, is like a diary, where that diary have in there like who you went to go see, the date, the time, what, like your notes from that person, if they had recommendations, why did they say that, and then like any questions you might have for your next appointment, or like, so having a block there. So say you went and you implemented whatever it was, something comes up, if you don't ask them at the in a portal or something like that, but you have another appointment, then put your notes there, so that way you have something that tracks like who suggested what and why, And then so then as you evolve and there's changes, it kind of helps you see like from what direction it came from. And then that could be helpful. I've done that with asking people even for their medications and supplements and all of that stuff. And you'd be surprised when they realize they would have been on something for like 10 years or 15 years. And then they're like, I don't even know why I'm even on this still. And so that is therapeutic though, because out of that awareness, they now have something to go to whomever and be like, do I really still need this? And then, it opens that conversation up. So to just kind of have that diary and then putting everybody in there, right? Like everyone in there. So it's like your hub. I prefer written. I know some people would do digital, but I would say written. So then that way you can carry it with you and then just kind of have it there and writing your stuff out.
Yeah, sometimes putting pen to paper is more therapeutic than typing it.
Yeah,
It is.
I definitely believe that.
Well, thank you so much for that answer, because that really helps starting with yourself, because most people don't think about that. Yeah, start with what do I really need, and what am I looking for when it
Yeah.
comes to my healthcare team.
Well, because it helps when you're to not be so persuaded
Yeah,
or fear mongered into making choices.
right. And they will
So,
do, especially East, I mean, especially Western doctors. They sure will. That doesn't
yeah.
make any sense. That's not working. Well, you don't even know what it is. You're just assuming because you have this. I mean, and I'm not taking anything away from being a doctor, because, hey, I wouldn't take that much schooling, but I'm not taking anything away from you. But don't discount what I'm trying to do on a more holistic level, because I don't want to put these extra drugs in my body, or you don't believe it's working, you know.
Well, and then that's where you just gently remind them, like, I understand, like, this is what you learned. I understand this is what this pharmaceutical rep taught you.
Right.
And at the
That.
same time, I'm a person, an individual person. So some of those protocols may not apply. You can tell me about a case study, and that case study is still going to say only a certain percentage.
Right.
And tell me, was I in that case study? Because then you still don't even know. Like,
Right.
does it apply to me? You know what
Right.
I mean? And I think that's the thing. I know cultural sensitivity is increasing some so that they could have those conversations with people of different backgrounds that may be exposed to other things. Some of them love to say, well, I practice evidence-based medicine, like I have an evidence-based practice. There's a such thing as practice-based evidence.
Okay.
And so yeah, like, and I didn't come up with that. That was her name is escaping me, but when I heard it, I was like, well, duh, that makes so much sense. That's how all of it got started. Something was put into practice
Right.
and then documented what happened. And
Yeah.
so not everything needs to be in some peer-reviewed journal, which I will tell you some of them pay for it and some of them have to go back and change
Yep.
their results
I
in
watched a
order for it to show
documentary
up.
on that. I was like, these, I won't say it on here, these beep.
So it's like,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying all of it can be true. All of it can be real. It's just, I want people that are going to see me for me
Right.
and what is happening in my sphere, in my
Right.
world. And so you stay strong in that, like that will guide you. So then that way your spidey senses will go off when you're interviewing with someone. And I call it an interview, but that could really just be your initial intake. And then you get there and you're like, something don't feel right. And then, and then you don't have to make another appointment. Like you can just go to someone else. Right. So like,
Exactly. Yeah.
um, just go and do that by all means. And just know that you're in the driver's seat. Like I said, you're the cake. We are the icing.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
it. I'll be buttercream. You know, I love me some buttercream.
Leslie, I asked my all my beautiful 50 plus ladies this. What does it mean to be unapologetically 50 plus to you?
That's a really good question. For me, it means I almost have developed like this IDGAF attitude. Like, if you don't like me, I don't care. If you don't like my shoes, I don't care. If you don't like how my hair, I don't care.
Exactly.
I look in the mirror and I'm like, you cute today. That's all that matters. I
That's
don't
all.
care. I don't
Yes.
care. I'm single, kind of dating, even though the dating pool has lawn furniture in it. Um, but it's funny. I was watching a video yesterday, and Kiki Palmer, who I think is wise way beyond her years, she said she looks at things like this. If she didn't get the role, she didn't lose the role. The film lost the opportunity to be greater. So, and I was like, that's what. So I didn't get to date this man. It's not a loss for me. He lost out on having me in his life. And that's my that's my response to a whole lot of things. And no is a complete sentence. And it doesn't require any explanation. Can you do? No. And taking time out for myself and self-care is not selfish. And I will always choose what puts me first, whether it's work, whether it's relationships, whether it's travel, whatever it is. If it doesn't put me first, I'm not going to do it. Unapologetically, not going to do it.
Exactly. All right. All right. I like that. Miss Avery, I know this is your second time me asking this, maybe your third. I don't care. Answer the question.
Throw me under the bus like that. It's very similar to what Leslie said. Truthfully, right around my fifth, when I turned 50, I came across this TED Talk, and I've shared it with you, Angela, from Sarah Knight, talking about the magic of not giving up. And she aligned it to a bank account that you only have so many F bucks to give, and do you want to spend them? And baby, yes, that's been freeing because I don't have none to spend. I'm not gonna spend it on you. No means no. I don't care what you think. But it's also interesting. Like my grandmother, when I was younger, my grandmother raised me. She would, when you're walking by, you say, "Excuse me." She would say, "Excuse you," and I'd be like, "Grandmother, excuse me. It's not excuse you." I understand why she says, excuse you now, because it's about I hold my space. I don't move. The only time I will stop and move out the way is if it's a little kid, because that's a child. But
Wait, I'm sorry.
especially,
I'm sorry. I have to say this because every time she says that, her and Katrece and I are very good friends. We have a long history. And we go traveling together. We were in an airport one time and we were trying to get through the airport quickly, get on our next flight. I would just stay behind her because she moves everybody out my way. So I don't need to do anything. I just walk behind her and she moves. Yeah. So when she says she holds her space, yes. Okay. I'm sorry, hun. Go
that's
ahead.
okay. It's true. I mean, because we've been conditioned to move out the way, to be accommodating, to all of the yada, yada, yada. No. No,
That part.
I'm a whole, I mean, now mind you, if it's I'm a whole my side, but there are people who walk in the middle or they don't, there's four of them across. It's too, I don't move. I don't move. You get bumped, excuse you. When I hurt my foot, I was on a scooter. Why do you think that you're supposed to cut off someone on wheels? You got a flat tire? I don't know why you try to cut. I just really have this mentality. This is my space. I'm going to respect my space and your space. But if you're not giving me the same respect, I'm still going to respect my space. And it's just been really empowering. And then the other thing, I am about myself, and that's not selfish. That is self-love, that it is caring. I have been superwoman my entire life. I have taken off that cape. I have told my daughters, don't ever put it on. It is not beneficial. Just be. So if that means I'm crying, I'm crying. If that means I'm angry, I'm going to be angry. I'm not going to water myself down to make you comfortable. Because if you can't handle me, you don't need to be here. And so that's kind of just I'm unapologetically me.
Hmm.
There's only one of me. I'm unapologetically me. I'm not for everybody. You don't like it? Cool. I'm only for certain people because not everybody's supposed to sit at your table. And to me, I was conditioned that I was supposed to make my table pleasing for everyone. Well, I don't serve seafood at my table. I am definitely allergic. I don't serve tree nuts at my table. I am definitely allergic. So do not come sitting at my table with your seafood and your pecan encrusted stuff because that's not going to make, you ain't supposed to be at my table. Go find somebody else's table. So embracing who I am, flaws all in and all aches and pains, and just loving on me has just really been eye-opening. And so that's me being unapologetic. And Angela knows because she's seen it in person. She'd be like, these people don't know this one. I'm like, yeah, no, but they will. It's okay. Or they think, oh, she's quiet. They think because we're quiet, no, you just
Don't
don't
let
want to hear what I have to say. I'm being nice. If you don't have nothing nice to say, I'm gonna say nothing at all. But you keep pushing it. I'm gonna tell you all about yourself, and you'll be like, "Where did that come from?"
Yeah. Don't
Hey,
let the cute face fool you.
thank you. So it's been a fun journey because literally about 50, I woke up. I was like, I will tell you about yourself. Keep pushing. I don't have no
Hmm.
problems about it. And be with a smile. Be like, baby, yeah. I feel like my grandmother, I really do, and I'm tickled to do that. So yes, that's me. Okay, so I'll turn it back over to you, Miss Angela.
Well, thank you guys both for those enlightening words of wisdom. And I hear you guys 110%. Denicia, you're not there yet, so I can't ask you. But hey, before you know it, you will be. So if I'm still doing this, then I will have you on and you can tell us. All right, everyone. So that's it for today. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Catrice. Thank you, Denicia. I'm definitely gonna have you back. There were so many questions I wanted to ask you, Denicia, but I was like, okay, we got to keep it at a certain time. So I'm gonna
You're
have
gonna
to
have
have
to
her
do a
back
series.
on.
You're gonna have to do a
I do
series.
right because
There's so much. There's so
and
much.
she just gives so much information, and I'm
Yeah.
loving it because it's from a holistic perspective, and that's what I'm definitely all about. So thank you again for coming on, and I'm glad you're not, I'm glad you're feeling better. So thank you for coming on. Um, and everyone, thank you for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please remember to like and subscribe. And I will see you again next week. Thank you guys for joining.
That was
Bye.
awesome. Thank you.